Hi, I'm Ral West, owner of Ral West, Living the Dream. Most businesses think onboarding is a one-time administrative task, or that the hiring process stops when they say yes. We learned the hard way. It's one of the most critical drivers of customer satisfaction, retention, and long-term growth. When our onboarding was inconsistent, we saw confusion, missed expectations, and unnecessary friction. It cost us time, energy, and trust. So we rebuilt it. Today, I'll walk you through how we transformed our onboarding process into a clear and repeatable system and how it directly improved our clients' experience. You'll learn why onboarding sets the tone for your entire customer relationship, the key gaps that quietly damage satisfaction, and how to fix them, and how to create a simple, structured onboarding process that your team can follow every time. What to include so your customers feel confident, supported, and clear from day one. This is not theory. It's based on real changes that we made in our own business and what actually worked. If your onboarding still relies on memory, scattered emails, or inconsistent handoffs, this will be worth your time. There is a version of this story that most business owners know intimately. High turnover, inconsistent service, customers frustrated by the gap between what you promised and what they received, employees who don't quite understand what a good job looks like, but not because they don't care, just because nobody ever showed them clearly enough. That was our business, Hawaiian Vacations, in its early years. And fixing it required us to confront something uncomfortable. The problem wasn't our people, it was our culture. And our culture was broken because we had never deliberately built one. In 1991, we made one of the boldest decisions in the history of Hawaiian Vacations. When the scheduled air carrier that we had been using pulled out of the Alaska-Hawaii market that prior spring, we had to step in. We chartered our own jet, a DC-8, to carry our customers between Alaska and Hawaii ourselves. And we had to pay the full operating cost of every flight, whether it was full or not. Well, it worked, and our business grew quickly. And as it grew, a cultural problem that had been manageable became impossible to ignore. The culture at HVI, what we called Hawaiian Vacations, had long been built around one thing: revenue, getting every penny of it, maximizing short-term profit. The implicit message to our team, it was never stated outright, but it was felt in every decision, was that the numbers mattered more than our customers' experience. The results were predictable. Travel agents, who were our primary customers, were telling us that they were dissatisfied with the quality of our service. Our telephone hold times were way too long. The demands far exceeded our team's capacity, and that compounded every service problem because we were constantly hiring and training new people who hadn't yet learned enough about our product. And the cycle fed itself. Unhappy agents, overworked staff, inconsistent service, more unhappy agents. We knew our culture needed a fundamental transformation. What we didn't yet know was exactly how to do it or where the framework to do it would come from. Around this time, I returned to college. I had dropped out at the age of 19 because my life had other plans. But now, years later, I enrolled in a degree completion program at Alaska Pacific University in Anchorage, studying organizational management. It turned out to be the most directly applicable education I had ever received because our business became my laboratory. It was my guinea pig. Our managers would shake their heads every morning after I'd come in after one of my night classes, because the first words out of my mouth were pretty much always, "Guess what I learned last night?" And then we would begin implementing that immediately. They were kind of patient with me, and overall, the results justified the experiments. But it was in that program that I first encountered total quality management, or TQM. It was a philosophy of business that had been transforming manufacturing companies, and it was beginning to find its way into service industries. I recognized it in it immediately, a solution to nearly every problem we were wrestling with at HVI. I was so convinced that I wrote my senior thesis on implementing a TQM program for Hawaiian Vacations. John and I embraced it completely, but not as a theoretical exercise, as a commitment. The definition of total quality management was integrating a quality-driven culture through continuous improvement and team empowerment. That definition, simple on the surface, but demanding in practice, became the lens through which we rebuilt HVI's culture from the inside out. Of all the changes we made during that TQM implementation, the one with the most direct and lasting impact on customer satisfaction was this. We completely rebuilt how we brought our new people into the company. Before TQM, onboarding was informal at best. New reservation agents learned on the job, absorbing the existing culture through osmosis, and they picked up habits, both good and bad, from whoever happened to be sitting next to them. The result was inconsistency. Every agent had a slightly different version of what good service meant, because nobody had ever sat them down and shown them the real version. We changed that entirely. We developed a structured 2-week training program for every new cohort of reservations agents. Not a general orientation, a deliberate, values-first immersion into what HVI stood for and what we expected from everyone who represented it, and a detailed familiarization with all of our products. So here's what a real onboarding problem includes. First, a structured orientation and training program where you have written or video documentation, not just figure it out as you go. An employee manual that sets expectations clearly from day one. We assigned mentors to welcome them, make introductions, and show them the ropes. And we needed to have a feedback loop to give them opportunities to ask questions and raise concerns early. We also had structured check-ins at the end of week 1, month 1, and quarter 1. At Hawaiian Vacations, we built this 2-week, 8-hour-a-day training program for each new cohort of reservations agents. And it was a precisely organized curriculum with experienced team members assigned to oversee new hires until they were confident in their role. And the result? Less turnover, better service, happier customers. Our training covered 3 things with equal weight. First was our TQM principles, what quality actually means, how it's measured, and why it matters to every individual and not just management. Individual responsibility for service quality, the explicit message that each person owned their piece of the customer experience, not just as an employee following rules, but as a professional who took personal pride in the outcome. And last, the vision, the culture, and philosophies of Hawaiian Vacations, who we were, what we believed, and why we were doing this, and what kind of company we were committed to building together. This wasn't just an orientation. This was a culture installation. From the very first day, every new team member understood not just their job, but the standard they were being asked to uphold and the reason it mattered. Hiring practices needed to change too. We completely overhauled how we selected our people, because the best onboarding program in the world can't compensate for hiring somebody who fundamentally isn't aligned with your values. The selection and the onboarding had to work together. So our clear hiring started with 3 things. First of all, a job description that defined what a good job looks like, and we quantified it wherever possible. Second, our company vision, values, and culture communicated to the candidates before they decided to join, not after. And third, the boundaries and expectations spelled out up front so there are no surprises on either side. And here's something most owners forget. The hiring conversation is as much your opportunity to sell them on working with you as it is your chance to evaluate them. In today's market, your best candidates have options, so make them want to choose you. How clearly are you communicating your vision and culture to your candidates before they accept your offer? Culture change without systems is just wishful thinking. What really made total quality management work at Hawaiian Vacations wasn't just the philosophy. It was the specific, concrete structures that we built to embed that philosophy into our daily operations. We had watchwords that became our operating language, 2 phrases that became the daily shorthand for how we expected problems to be approached. The first one was take the systems approach. Every problem was treated as an opportunity to examine and improve the underlying system, not just solve the immediate issue and move on. The second was do it right the first time. Reworking is a waste. Quality that's built in from the start is always cheaper than adding quality after the fact. And these weren't just slogans on a poster. They were genuine decision-making filters that gradually became woven into the fabric of how our company thought and operated. And we created a guest satisfaction department with one explicit mission to ensure that every single guest concern was acknowledged within 48 hours and that every concern was handled to retain that guest as a future customer. The 48-hour standard was non-negotiable, not aspirational, it was operational. Systems were built to track every concern statistically so that we could identify patterns, measure responsiveness, and report on outcomes. We also made a deliberate effort to learn what actually delighted our customers, not just what they complained about. In some cases, the feedback led us even to end relationships with suppliers who consistently couldn't meet our quality standards. We even began tracking what had never been tracked before. We were looking at the calls received per day per agent, our average call length, and the average dollar volume of sales per call. Each agent could see their own performance data, and so could their managers. This wasn't surveillance. It was the baseline measurement that allowed improvement and recognition and honest coaching. So total quality management also holds that employees are the internal customers, and we took that seriously. Managers were repeatedly asking the team to share ideas, surface problems, and suggest improvements. We had a suggestion box system that rewarded the best ideas each month. And we had an open door policy, which meant that any employee could request time with a supervisor or with us directly to discuss any concern. Our communication channels were cleared and streamlined. We had more effective meetings, clearer memos, and better use of emails. We also created a company-wide bonus plan. And our bonus plan was the structural signal that aligned everyone's interest with the company's success. The bonus plan wasn't just for management, it was company-wide, creating a direct, tangible connection between the team's collective performance and their individual rewards. Buy-in followed. When people share in the outcome, they invest differently in the work. This was our win-win philosophy, and it worked. We had amazing team alignment. So, what were our results? Well, improvements. Not perfectly, not overnight, but measurably in the specific areas where we had focused the most energy. Our culture had shifted from a revenue at all costs to quality as a competitive strategy. The language of quality had become genuinely common across the organization. Departments were functioning as teams. The individual accountability for the customer experience had become a real expectation rather than just an aspiration. And customer satisfaction improved. Our travel agent relationships were strengthened. And our turnover decreased. Because when people work inside a culture that has standards, that invests in their development, and that shares in its own success, they stay. And the business kept on growing, not just in revenue, but in resilience, in reputation, in the kind of organizational capacity that eventually made it possible for us to step back from daily operations, hire a COO and a CFO to run the company, and ultimately sell Hawaiian Vacations to Alaska Airlines in 2008. None of that exit was possible without the foundation that Total Quality Management built. Alaska Airlines wasn't just buying our charter air flights and Hawaii tour packages. The value of our company had been established through our well-documented culture, an aligned and purposely trained team, and systems that produced quality without the founders, us, needing to be present. Those were the elements that won the loyalty and repeat business from our customers and enabled Hawaiian Vacations to have a strong foothold in the market that had defied competitors like Hawaiian Airlines and Northwest Airlines. Great onboarding doesn't just train people. It transmits what you stand for. And that transmission is the foundation of every customer experience that follows. This week, I'd like to challenge you to do an exercise and audit your onboarding. Take 30 minutes and honestly evaluate what a new team member experiences when they join your business. And work through these questions. In the first 2 weeks, do new team members receive explicit instruction on your quality standards? Not just their job tasks? Do they learn your company's values and vision in a structured way, or do they absorb it informally over time? Is there a documented onboarding process that every new hire goes through, or does it vary depending on who happens to be available to train them? After onboarding, could a new team member answer this question clearly? What does excellent customer service look like here specifically? Lastly, are there any aspects of TQM, continuous improvement, employee empowerment, a quality-first culture that would strengthen how your business currently operates? You don't need to overhaul everything at once. Pick the one gap that is most directly affecting your customer experience right now. Define the standard, build the structure, and document it. That one change, made deliberately and embedded into your onboarding, will compound quietly for years. The culture your customers experience is the culture that you install, or the one you fail to. Here are some final thoughts. The picture at Hawaiian Vacations was not that unusual. Most businesses that are in a high growth mode are operating on a culture that evolved rather than one that was designed, shaped by urgency, by whoever was available to train new hires, and by implicit standards that were never made explicit. The shift from that to something intentional isn't complicated, but it requires the willingness to stop and look honestly at what new team members actually receive and ask whether that experience is capable of producing the quality of customer service that you want to be known for. Remember, take the systems approach. Do it right the first time. Those two phrases were lived out daily across every department at Hawaiian Vacations, and they gradually became who we were. It was not just a management initiative, not just a poster on a wall. It was the actual operating philosophy of our company. And that's what a deliberate culture looks like. And it starts the moment a new hire walks through your door. I'd like to ask you to take some time to look at our owner bottleneck diagnostic. It's free and it takes less than 3 minutes. And this little diagnostic will show you where you are, what is your owner stage? Where is your time actually going? And what are the specific gaps that are keeping your team from running without you? This isn't just fluff, it's just clarity. So take a moment, jot down this URL, the owner-diagnostic.ralwest.com. Take this diagnostic and learn some things about how you're doing in your organization. Thank you for joining me today.